My name is Cassandra Martinez, and welcome to the CDCR Office of Resource Planning's Option Worksheet Instructional video, which will provide instructions as if an employee has received an Options Worksheet. This video was created as a tool to assist you in understanding the Options Worksheet. If you have received an Options Worksheet packet, it means that you are either directly affected by position reductions or designated as one of the least senior in your classification in the area of layoff. Determinations were made as to which individuals placed on SROA would require an Options Worksheet based on classification, seniority score, and area of layoff. Option worksheets are unique to each impacted employee and have been personalized to your specific situation. The option worksheets identify all available placement options, which will include permanent vacancies, as well as permanently funded positions filled by limited term or training and development assignments, as these are also considered vacancies for the purpose of placement. Employees will also be provided the opportunity to bump within the area of layoff, provided there are no vacancies for that classification. Individuals do not have the ability to elect a position in which they will bump into, as it is based on seniority, and typically the individual will be awarded the position held by the least senior staff in the area of layoff within the specific classification. The option worksheet packet will also include various tools such as steps in the placement process and further information to assist the employee with making a decision. However, duty statements or position numbers will not be provided. If you have any questions after the review of this option worksheet, please contact the Office of Resource Planning, also referred to as ORP, Customer Service Unit at 877-297-5599. The role of the Customer Service Unit is to provide factual information to employees about the layoff process. The Customer Service Unit does not provide advice to employees, as these are personal decisions based upon each individual's circumstances. At this time, we will take the opportunity to explain the option worksheet, starting with page 1 of the worksheet titled California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation Placement/Layoff Options Worksheet.
Summary of Employees' Impacted Status. The information at the top of this page summarizes your impacted status. It will be listed as a header for every page of the Options Worksheet. In the event you contact ORP, this information will be used to provide you with assistance. Employee name. This is your name, followed by the last 4 of your Social Security number. Layoff name. This is the name of the layoff plan in which you are currently impacted. Impacted classification. This is the classification that you are impacted in. If you believe this to be incorrect, please contact ORP at the number previously provided. Please keep in mind this classification may be different than your current classification if you are currently working in a temporary capacity, such as a limited term appointment or training and development assignment. For example, if you are currently appointed limited term, the information listed would be for your last permanent appointment, as that is the classification in which you are impacted. Area of layoff. This is the area of layoff in which you are impacted. Impacted work location. This is the work location in which you are impacted. If you believe this to be incorrect, please contact ORP at the number previously provided. Preliminary Seniority Score. This will list your preliminary seniority scores along with the date in which the score is calculated through. The first score shown is your total state service score, which will include any qualifying exempt service that is on file with ORP. The second score is your BU6 score, which includes any time that you may have served in a rank and file or supervisory BU6 classification. The last score shown is your BU13 score, which includes time you may have served in a rank and file BU13 classification. For layoff purposes, qualifying military service that is on file with ORP will be included in these scores as listed. Seniority scores will be updated to your final seniority score and posted approximately 30 to 60 days prior to the layoff effective date. Due date and submission information. This options worksheet must be completed, signed, and faxed to the fax number listed at the bottom of each page. The options worksheet is due by close of business on the date specified here. The date shown here is for example only. Your actual due date will be displayed on the form that's provided to you. Once your options worksheet has been submitted, even if before the due date indicated, ORP will not accept any amendments. It is very important that you have considered all available options and are comfortable with all of the options you have selected, as well as ensuring that the entire document is complete. Again, once an options worksheet is submitted to ORP, absolutely no amendments will be accepted. Contact information. It is your responsibility to keep your contact information current. If your contact information as listed below is inaccurate, please complete an employee action request and submit it to your institution personnel officer or personnel liaison immediately. This is the contact information that will be used by ORP for official correspondence and/or notifications. ORP may need to call you directly should clarification of your options worksheet be required. In the contact information, there is an area designated to list contact numbers. Please list all possible contact numbers, as ORP may need to contact you regarding your option worksheet. ORP will only contact you if there is a question or concern regarding your selections, but it is essential that we can do so quickly, as these actions are time sensitive. In the event ORP is unable to reach you within a reasonable time frame, ORP will proceed attempting to facilitate placement on your behalf, and you could be subject to layoff. It is required to initial and date the bottom of every page of this worksheet. Before submitting the options packet to ORP, please ensure that each page has been initialed and dated. Outline of available options. This section outlines the options that are available to you to select to maintain employment with CDCR. They include remaining in your impacted classification and area of layoff based on your seniority or transfer to a vacant position, or demoting to a classification identified in your primary or personal demotional pattern. You may also choose to voluntarily separate in lieu of layoff. This section of the worksheet is optional. It allows you the option to resign, retire, or elect to be laid off. You may also indicate whether you want to maintain or waive your reemployment rights if you voluntarily separate through this process. If you choose one of these options, you are not required to complete the remainder of the worksheet. However, you must sign and date in the Acknowledgement and Completion section of the worksheet and submit to ORP by the due date indicated on the first page of the Options Worksheet. If you have elected to voluntarily separate and maintain your reemployment rights, you must also complete the Reemployment List Election form at the end of the worksheet and return with the Options Worksheet by the due date indicated. Acknowledgement and Completion. It is very important to understand that CDCR may attempt to facilitate placement on your behalf, and you could be subject to layoff if you do not complete and submit the Options Worksheet by the due date identified on the first page. Please sign, date, and print your name. Signing this document indicates that you have reviewed and completed the entire Options Worksheet. Please remember to initial and date the bottom of this page as well. Again, this will be on every page of the worksheet. Primary and personal demotional patterns. This page outlines the options that will be available to you per your specific situation. You will see vacancies listed throughout the following pages of the Options Worksheet in your impacted classification, your primary demotional pattern, and your personal demotional pattern. A primary demotion is a demotion to a classification that is in your impacted classification's demotional pattern, typically within the series of the impacted classification. For example, a Staff Services Manager 3 can demote to a Staff Services Manager 2, which can then demote to a Staff Services Manager 1, etc. Your personal demotional pattern is to a classification you have held on a permanent basis in state service that is currently utilized by CDCR. This will exclude classifications that are specific to another state agency. Employees in the Teacher Elementary Multiple Subjects Classification, Class Code 2287, and Teacher High School General Education Classification, Class Code 2290, are offered vacancies in both classifications per an agreement between SEIU and the department. This may warrant an extra section in your Options Worksheet. If there is a classification that is listed in your primary or personal demotional pattern that you have medically demoted, transferred, placed, disability retired from, you must provide medical documentation clearing you to return to that classification. In the event that you have selected one of these classifications, please check the box to the left of that classification on this summary page. You must attach the required medical clearance, clearing you to perform the full range of essential functions of that classification with or without a reasonable accommodation. If you disability retired from the classification, you will also need to obtain and provide permission from CalPERS. Again, placement into a classification in which you have been medically demoted, transferred, placed, disability retired from is contingent upon the appropriate clearances. Please keep this in mind when selecting an option provided to you that may require this information. Special notations. These are 4 key notes regarding the placement process. Placement will only be facilitated to permanent positions within your area of layoff. No limited-term positions will be offered through this process. ORP has made every effort to ensure that the vacancies listed in this worksheet are accurate. However, if a vacancy is not available, ORP will move on to your next selection in priority order. You must possess a valid license, credential, or certificate and/or meet any special requirements that are associated with specific positions listed, or placement will not be facilitated. If you are not currently a peace officer and have a personal demotional pattern to a peace officer classification, placement into that classification will be contingent upon various factors. You must meet applicable peace officer requirements, such as background clearance, fitness for duty, etc. You will be notified of the requirements in more detail should you be placed into that classification. Placement into this classification may require mandated training after you report. Unsuccessful completion of the necessary training could result in termination of your employment for failure to meet employment conditions. Vacancy listing and instructions. Please review and complete all of the sections that provide options to you in the vacancy listing to indicate your interest in the available vacancies. You are encouraged to select as many vacancies in which you are willing to accept as a placement. Please do not select any option that you are not willing to accept placement. If you are awarded a position that you have selected, you will be required to report to that position. Failure to report will result in you being designated absent without leave unless you obtain other permanent employment in a location that is not impacted prior to the effective layoff date. You must indicate yes or no for every option listed. For those options that are of interest to you, mark yes in the appropriate field, and then prioritize those selections starting with the number 1 and continue. A priority number should only be used once throughout the entire document. Therefore, double-check your selections to ensure that there are no duplicate priority numbers before you submit the worksheet to ORP. In an effort to maintain the integrity of the process, ORP will not allow write-ins. If an option is not listed, it will not be considered. If a vacancy shows a time base of 1.0, then it is a full-time position. Anything less than 1.0 is less than full-time. For example, 0.5 would be half-time. PICO refers to Permanent Intermittent Correctional Officer, and INT refers to an intermittent position. Starting with page 5 or 6, pages may vary due to the number of classifications listed in your demotional patterns. Vacancies applicable to your specific situation are listed by classification. There will be vacancies listed for your impacted classification, classifications identified for your primary and personal demotional patterns, all of which were previously discussed in this video and were outlined on page 3 of the Options Worksheet. ORP has made every effort to ensure that the vacancies identified in your Options Worksheet are viable. However, if a vacancy is not available, ORP will move on to your next selection in priority order. Placements will be awarded by seniority within the area of layoff. It is beneficial for impacted employees to select as many options as they are willing to accept placement to that position. For each classification listed in this section, the following information is identified. County. This is the county in which the vacancies are located, listed in alphabetical order. Facility program name. This is the name of each CDCR work location that has a vacancy listed. If you would like specific information regarding the vacancies, you may contact the program areas by using the contact listing that was enclosed in your options packet. Vacancy ID number. This number is an internal tracking number utilized by ORP only. Therefore, please do not reference this ID number to a facility or program. You may, however, reference it if you call the ORP Customer Service Unit. Number of vacancies. This indicates how many vacancies per location the facility or program has in that classification. Please note, locations listed that provide permanent intermittent correctional officer vacancies will not display the number of vacancies available. However, if the location is listed on your options worksheet, then there are vacancies available for your selection. TB. This represents the time base of the position. This was previously explained in this video. However, as a reminder, vacancies listed with a time base of 1.0 are full-time. Positions listed less than 1.0 are less than full-time. Please keep this in mind when making your selections, that some locations may be listed multiple times because the vacancies are various time bases. Yes and no. This is where it is required that each box be completed to indicate your interest in each vacancy. Please mark yes if you are interested or no if you are not interested for each vacancy listed. A recommendation is to go through all of the vacancies presented in your worksheet and mark yes or no on all of the options, then return and prioritize each vacancy you have marked yes to in the order you would prefer your placement to be in. Priority. You may only use priority numbers once through the entire document. Do not repeat priority numbers. Even though the vacancies provided to you are divided into various sections, you must treat all of the options as one listing. For example, if you were interested in 20 options, you would mark your options 1 through 20 throughout the entire worksheet. This area of the worksheet provides you the opportunity to choose bumping within the area of layoff in the classification listed. Bumping can occur only within your area of layoff if there are no vacancies available in the classification and if your seniority allows. If you are interested in bumping, please complete the boxes identified for bumping by priority as explained previously. You will be given the opportunity to select whether you want to bump into a full-time or part-time position or both and prioritize accordingly. You do not get to select a specific position to bump into. Instead, you are electing to bump the least senior impacted employee in that classification within the area of layoff in accordance with your selection. This option will only be utilized if your seniority will allow it, and if there are no vacancies available in the classification and the area of layoff at the time of your placement. If you select a bump and have marked no on a vacancy provided in the classification within the area of layoff, and it is still available at the time of your placement, ORP cannot facilitate this option if the vacancy is still available. Again, there cannot be a vacancy available in the classification and area of layoff when bumping occurs. Employees are encouraged to select as many options that they are willing to accept as a placement. By selecting as many options as possible for your individual circumstance, you assist ORP in attempting to facilitate your placement. However, even though we encourage all employees to select as many as possible, please do not select any options that you are unwilling to accept placement to. If ORP awards you a position that you have selected, you will be required to report to that position. Failure to report will result in you being designated absent without leave unless you obtain permanent employment to a location that is not impacted prior to the effective layoff date. The next sections will list vacancies and classifications identified as your primary and/or personal demotional patterns. You will review these sections in the same manner as previously explained. When prioritizing your options, keep in mind that even though your options are divided into various sections, you must treat all sections as one listing when prioritizing your selections. Reemployment. The Reemployment List Election document is to be returned with the Options Worksheet by the due date indicated on the first page of the Options Worksheet. In the event you have been laid off, demoted, or relocated more than 50 miles from your work location, you will be placed on the appropriate reemployment listing for the classification you were impacted in and/or any classifications you were given demotional rights during layoff and have demoted through. Employees appear in seniority order on all reemployment listings and will remain on reemployment for 5 years or until they are hired from the reemployment list into a permanent position. This document allows you to select the tenure, time base, and geographical areas in which you are interested in receiving employment inquiries from the reemployment listing. Please remember that you have unlimited waivers for employment inquiries relating to your reemployment status. Please indicate if you are interested in permanent and/or temporary reemployment status. You may select both of these options. Also, you will need to indicate if you are interested in full-time, part-time, or permanent intermittent status. You are not limited to only selecting one of these options. You may select as many as you are interested in considering.
As a reminder, please read and follow all directions on the option worksheet as well as the cover letter you have received. Please ensure the option worksheet is complete and submitted by the designated due date along with the Reemployment List Election document. You should retain a copy for your records. Failure to return the necessary documents by the due date indicated by ORP on the first page of the option worksheet may result in ORP making an attempt to place you on your behalf. However, in the event placement cannot be facilitated, you could be subject to layoff. To assist staff through these times, Human Resources maintains the CDCR Layoff Resources webpage on the intranet and internet. These sites include information about the Employee Assistance Program and educational seminar sessions offered by the Office of Employee Wellness. The site also contains detailed information and frequently asked questions related to layoff plans and reductions. If you have questions regarding the option worksheet or at any point during the layoff process, please contact the ORP Customer Service Unit Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. at 877-297-5599 or via email at cdcr.orphelpdesk@cdcr.ca.gov. In closing, we understand these are difficult times and we encourage you to use all of the resources available to you and your family. We hope you have found this information to be helpful.